Okay. Oh, Mr. Conrad, you received the state's response to your motion.
I did. I haven't had a full chance to review it yet.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, Judge. I received this morning. I skimmed through it. I haven't had a full chance to review it.
Is that your way of saying you don't want to discuss it now?
Yeah, I'd prefer that we discuss it this afternoon so I can take one last look at, or take a more thorough look at it and see the cases they've cited.
That's fine with me.
Okay. In terms of scheduling, we have 3 witnesses for this morning. We have Deputy Moss, Deputy Pressel, and a mental health counselor and from Greater Lakes. And I believe this afternoon we have another 5 witnesses scheduled. Sorry, 2 witnesses scheduled to 5 total.
Okay.
Chad Hayes and Kenneth White.
And I think Mr. Hayes and Mr. We go quickly this morning might be available later this morning.
Okay.
That was going to be my next comment, Judge. We got through 6 witnesses yesterday, which we're obviously happy with. The judge is happy with. We scheduled 5 for today. I think that will get us right around 4 o'clock. But if we don't make that 4 o'clock mark or 3 o'clock mark, then I guess we could take up the motion at that point as well.
Okay. You'll be out of witnesses after those 5 for today?
That's what we have scheduled for today, 5 witnesses.
Who's calling which ones?
So Officer Rankin is calling Deputy Moss and Deputy Pressel, as well as Rachel Pasteris, Pasteris.
The Greater Lakes Counselor.
The Greater Lakes Counselor. Pasteris.
And then Mr. White.
Mr. Personnel will call Mr. Hayes.
Okay. Great. Is there anything else we need to talk about? Is your witness ready?
The state does have a motion with regard to the first 2 businesses.
Okay, hold on.
Pressel and
Okay, hold on for a second. Are they?
I just got past a note that Rachel is now telling us that she has a hard stop at 10:30. So I planned on calling Moss and Pressel first, but I'm fine with calling Rachel first if that's acceptable. Sorry for the confusion to the
And-
state.
They're all here.
They're all here.
Go ahead, Mr. Liu.
The state does have a motion regarding Deputies Pressel and Moss. The state understands that they will talk about the 2015 incident involving Mr. Rachelle and Mr. Ellis's pocket and the struggle that ensued. Defense sought admission of this incident to support their experts' opinions that it shows how Mr. Ellis behaves while under the influence of methamphetamine when confronted with police. The court has indicated that there is enough coincidences between the 2015 incident and 2019 for it to be admissible. While the state disagrees with the admissibility of this incident, we do understand the court's ruling. However, the state's understanding is that this evidence, this 2015 incident, is being admitted for the purposes of showing Mr. Ellis's alleged behavior while under the influence of meth to support their experts' opinions and potential connection to some meth psychosis. For those limited reasons, the underlying domestic violence call should not be admissible. It has no relevance to the purpose for which this evidence is being admitted by the court, and it's more prejudicial than probative. My understanding is the defense depends on introducing photos of the domestic violence incident, including bite marks, and that evidence should not come in because it simply is not relevant to the purpose for which the court has admitted the 2015 incident. Similarly, the NIK test that was conducted, as the court pointed out in its ruling, was never tested, never confirmed, and that has no relevance with regard to this incident. and as well as an outstanding warrant during the arrest. That also is not relevant for the purposes for which the 2015 incident is being
The 2015
admitted.
is,
Be admitted.
Any comment?
So Judge, I didn't intend on admitting the photo showing the bite mark, but in terms of the jury understanding what the call out and dispatch was, I intended to ask the deputies what they were called out for and what their interactions were. Much like the A&W incident, we have again an incident of violence with methamphetamine. Police arrive. Much like the incident in 2020, he's trying not to be apprehended either because he's violating conditions release or he's got a warrant out for his arrest at the time, and then he becomes assaultive towards the officers, resisting arrest. I mean, I think the court's read through the reports in this case, which have a lot of similarities to the March incident, again, also involving methamphetamine. So to the extent that the state's preventing us from using the photo, I would agree. To the extent that the state's trying to prevent us from presenting evidence as to why the deputies are there and what the call was, I would disagree. I think that it's relevant, and I think it also goes to telling the circumstances of the call.
What about the warrant?
The warrant, again, I think is relevant. The actions of Mr. Ellis in this specific circumstance, just like in March, meth, not supposed to be using drugs, or has a warrant out for his arrest and trying to escape arrest.
Well, as I understand it, Mr. Ellis did not become aggressive, if you will, towards the police until after he'd already been placed in a patrol car, right?
That is correct.
And evidently because there was a concern that he was, at least one imagines, he was concerned about the methamphetamine in his pocket being discovered, which had not previously been discovered. But at that point in time, Mr. Ellis would have known he was going to jail, because he's in a patrol car, right? So how do the warrants play into anything?
I think, again, when you look at the circumstances, even though he's in custody, and at that point, and then he begins to start resisting arrest and becoming assaultive towards the deputies, I think the dynamics that are in play there are, again, similar to March, which is he knows that he's got this warrant out, that he's not supposed to be doing this, not supposed to be out there. I think the DOC warrant is actually tailored towards sentencing requirements that also said that he was not to be using drugs or alcohol at that time. So to the extent that the DOC warrant doesn't need to come in, well, I don't think these deputies have knowledge of what the conditions are, but Mr. Ellis presumably does.
Who does?
Mr. Ellis. I mean, he signed the sentencing paperwork, which required him to refrain from drug usage.
Yeah. Of course, in those days, possession of methamphetamine was a felony anyway. Presumably he would have known that, too. I'm not sure that adds anything. I think that the police can testify why they were called, explains their presence there. But the idea of the warrant, the conditions of whatever prior sentence he might have had, I don't see the need of that. Mr. Liu, did you have another comment?
Yes, my understanding is that defense also intends on, may introduce a booking photo of Mr. Ellis.
No, I don't think that we're going to need to admit that at this point.
Yeah. And also as with respect to the underlying, they can say why they were called out, but the merits of, if you will, of the underlying call, the domestic violence incident, I guess, there's no need to go there other than that that's what they were called there for, without any further explanation.
Okay, I'll make sure to inform the deputies that they're just to say that it was a domestic violence call and no further information. You're not supposed to mention the DOC warrant at the time.
Yeah.
I think the other issue was Nick's testing as well. They tested positive for methamphetamine.
When was that?
I don't know if the state's trying to prevent us from
Oh, of the
the
drug that was, or syringe or whatever was found.
correct.
There's no confirmation that this is a field test, and the methamphetamine was destroyed apparently, and it was never confirmed.
That's why he wasn't charged with it.
Correct. So there's no relevance to that.
Well, there is relevance to it.
Will indicate that they saw signs that he was under the influence, but the NIK test results should not come in. But just to clarify, Your Honor, is Your Honor saying that the defense can mention that this is a DV call?
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's what the dispatch was, whatever the dispatch was.
But that's prejudicial, more prejudicial than probative. The reason why they're being called out has no relevance to the purpose for which the court is committing this particular incident. Again, to show the fact of how Mr. Ellis behaves when in police custody or presence. And they can simply refer to it as being called out to an incident without referring to it as domestic violence.
Whatever the dispatch was is whatever it was. Dispatches aren't always accurate. I mean, you get called out to something and it turns out it's something else. Happens all the time.
I mean, there has to be a reason they're taking me to custody. It can't just be, we decided to do this.
Well, that,
And the state will certainly stipulate that they have a reason to arrest him, but I don't think that there was a need or any relevance to mentioning that this is a domestic violence.
all right. Well, I'll let them indicate as to why they were dispatched. And with respect to the testing, yeah, I'll permit that too. Okay. We ready for the jury?
Yes, Judge, can I go outside and inform the witnesses quickly of the legal way?
You can. It'll take us a few minutes to get the jury in here anyway, so we'll wait for you to arrive, Mr. Conrad. And have you decided which one you're going to call? You're going to call the mental health one?
Oh, Rachel, because she's indicated she needs to get out of here.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Conrad, your next witness.
Officer Rankin Post, Rachel Pasteris.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please come on forward, right about here, if you would. There we go. Now, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Have a seat right there. Please state your name and please spell your name.
My name is Rachelle Pasteris, Rachelle, P as in Paul, A-S, T as in Tom, E-R-I-S.
Yes.
Pasteris.
That is correct.
Okay.
Good morning.
Have you ever testified in court before?
I have not.
Okay. You okay?
I was until all eyes were on me.
There's a cup with some water if you need it.
Thank you.
Okay, of course. So, I want to start with some quick background information about you. Can you tell the jury what your occupation is?
I am a social worker.
Okay. And what does that mean to be a social worker?
Social workers are trained to identify biopsychosocial and emotional stressors. We understand what is within the community in terms of resource needs and partnerships therein. We also have the ability, if we're working at the top of our license, to go clinical, do clinical work, as therapy needs and things like that.
And how long have you been doing that?
I've been working as a social worker since 2019.
And what organization do you work
I currently work with Multi-Care Tacoma General Hospital.
for? And did you previously work for Greater Lakes?
Yes, I did.
And is it Greater Lakes Mental Health Care?
Greater Lakes Mental Health Care, that is correct.
And how long did you work there?
From 2019 to 2023 of July.
And what was your job title at Greater Lakes?
At Greater Lakes, I started as a case manager 2 and worked my way through to a therapist 1 position.
And what's your education background?
I maintain a Bachelor's of Arts in Social Welfare as well as a Master of Social Work.
I ask you about a patient that you may have seen by the name of Manuel Ellis. Does that
Yes.
name ring a bell?
Yes, it does.
Have you had an opportunity to review some of the mental health and medical records associated with his care?
Yes, I have.
And those are the Greater Lakes records, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And would it help you for your testimony to refer to some of those records?
It could, yes.
Okay, so I want to present you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 2026.
Thank you.
These are the certified Greater Lakes mental health records of Manuel Ellis. Are they not?
They are. That is correct.
And are these the type of records that are routinely taken at Greater Lake?
They are, but they're no longer utilized in this particular format as the confidential software has been discontinued and Greater Lakes now uses the Epic system.
Okay, so they've moved on to a different software system.
Correct. And so it would look very different from what you're seeing now.
And in the course of your duties while working at Greater Lakes, did you take notes and document information about patients?
Absolutely.
And why do you do that?
It's so that when you come to see the therapist, we are identifying your treatment plan goals towards your wellness and recovery. Per state law, we have to have a treatment plan on file and or a crisis plan if it's warranted for that individual.
Okay. And well, are these records that other providers at Greater Lakes also rely upon?
That is correct.
And is it important to patient care that the records are kept and maintained by Greater Lakes?
Yes.
Why?
It's so that for various reasons, it's important that everyone has access to their electronic medical record for any type of need, especially in Mr. Ellis's situation, someone who is a justice impacted individual, and things like that. So just different reasons.
Okay. And I want to ask you about some of the notes that are contained in the exhibit I just handed you, 2026. And the first line of question I have is regarding a discharge summary, and the what we call base label is on the bottom right hand corner. It says 5876.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Can you turn to 5876, please?
Yes. Are you? Yes, I'm on there. I'm good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is a discharge summary?
So a discharge summary is our way of terminating services with an individual if they are not compliant in services or have graduated from therapy services.
Okay. So either you've terminated services or they've graduated.
That is correct.
And what are the reasons that you terminate services?
If there's not engagement going on.
And in this discharge summary, can you read for the jury what the diagnoses were at discharge?
At discharge.
Subject to the relevance of this, given the date.
Yes, sir.
20. So can you read for the jury what the diagnoses, well, let's start with this. What's the date of service, the date of admin for this discharge summary?
The date of service is August 6, 2019.
And does it indicate what the admit date is?
July 22nd, 2019.
And what is the admit date? What does that mean?
It's likely when they enrolled in services and conducted the intake with an assessor.
Okay, and then the discharge date is indicated there as well, is that right?
That is correct.
So what's the date for discharge?
October 7th, 2019.
Okay, and what are the diagnoses for Mr. Ellis at the time of discharge?
At the time of discharge, Mr. Ellis's diagnoses included F28, which is other specified schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder, F15-20, amphetamine type substance use disorder severe, as well as F12-20, cannabis use disorder severe.
And if you could turn to the next page, please, which is 5877. I want to ask you about the information that you included in the discharge summary. In that first paragraph there, can you read for the jury the first paragraph that's included there?
I'd be happy to read it, but I do want you to know these are not my words.
Okay, and that's a good point. So you're taking this information from another provider?
That is correct. It's coming from his intake. So the assessor who conducted the intake with him. This is basically describing the symptoms or things therein that would constitute the primary diagnoses at hand.
And so So I actually want to show you that intake, and that's Defense Exhibit 2016.
Thank you.
And is that an assessment from July 22nd, 2019?
That is correct.
And that aligns with the admin date that you have in this discharge summary as well?
Yes, that is correct.
Alright. So the information that you're containing, that's contained within your discharge summary comes from that initial assessment with Mr. Ellis, is that right?
That is correct.
And those are records that you regularly rely upon within your treatment of patients?
Absolutely. It's kind of comprehensive telling of someone's baseline when they're initiating therapy services.
Okay. So the assessment was done by Kate Monahan, is that right?
That is correct.
And who is Kate Monahan?
She is a former colleague of mine, likely a licensed mental health professional as well.
Okay. So she did the initial assessment, and that's a record that's contained within the Crater Lakes records as well.
That is correct.
Okay. So I want to ask you again about that paragraph within your discharge summary. If you could read that for me, sure.
Manuel reports symptoms which are characteristic of a schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder that causes clinically significant distress and impairment in social, occupational, and interpersonal functioning, but they do not meet the full criteria for any of the disorders listed in the schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder diagnostic class. Manuel endorses auditory hallucinations. Symptoms are likely exacerbated by current methamphetamine use. Manuel also has a significant trauma history, however, presents with psychotic symptoms being a primary concern. Further evaluation in this area is warranted.
Okay. And what does it indicate the last date of contact for Mr. Ellis was there?
Could you please specify what you mean by that, please?
Sure. It says date of last contact. I believe the date is July 30th, 2019.
July 30th, 2019, correct.
Okay. So that's the date that Mr. Ellis was last contacted, is that right?
That I cannot speak for. That very well could have been. I'm going to say I do not recall.
Okay, that's fine. So one of the things that's indicated in this medical record as well is that he was actually discharged on, it's that under level of achievement of goals and objectives of last contact. You see that paragraph?
I do.
And within that paragraph, it indicates that he was discharged actually on September 10th, 2019 due to non-engagement. Is that right?
Yes, it would be September 7th of 2019.
September 7th of 2019.
Correct.
Okay, so he was discharged around that date due to non-engagement. Is that right?
That is correct.
And then if you flip back to the first page of your discharge summary, it indicates that you had reviewed records and seen that he was in fact arrested for a robbery 2 charge and was in custody on September 22nd, 2019. Is that right?
That is correct.
So just in terms of the timeline for the jury, that the date of last contact is July 22nd, 2019, when he stops going to Crater Lakes, pursuant to your discharge summary.
That is correct.
Then you discharge him for non-engagement early September. Is that right?
It says here it was electronically signed on October 7th.
Okay.
The reason why you see a gap with the dates is because we have to determine if you actually are jailed before we continued with the discharge.
Okay. But the date of last contact with him at Crater Lakes was September 30th, 2019. Is that right?
Where do you see that, please?
That was on that last page of your discharge summary.
Date of last contact, July 30th, 2019.
Okay. And then we have the custody in September of 2019.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple of, well, before we move on, I want to ask you about the assessment that you relied upon by Kate on.
Mhm.
And I know that you didn't take this assessment, but obviously it's something that you relied upon in formulating your discharge summary.
Yes.
And I want to ask you if you could read for the jury the last sentence there.
Under presenting issues?
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
If you could read for the jury the last sentence there under presenting issues and symptoms.
Okay. Under presenting issues, again, these are not my words. When first noticed symptoms, in Mr. Ellis's voice, I always heard voices. I thought they were guiding me, but now they are negative. When I'm in a safe place, I won't hear them. I felt a spirit come through me and it was saying stuff. I think people are looking at me and talking about me. I feel anxious, overwhelmed, and angry. End quote.
And if you could flip to the page marked 5867.
Yes, sir.
Under health, medical, and medication. There's a question there that asks Mr. Ellis, current ongoing physical health concerns. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do.
And can you read for the jury what the question is and what his answer is?
Again, these are not my words. Current or ongoing physical health concerns. He indicated yes. And when asked to describe, he said heart condition.
And under medical history as it impacts current functioning, if you could read for the jury what's noted there as well.
Mr. Ellis stated, I could die. I almost died twice. End quote.
And the last thing I'd like you to read from this assessment is on page 5872.
Are you asking me to read all the content, sir?
No, so under goals,
Mm-hmm.
could you read for the jury what was the goal noted by Mr. Ellis?
Mr. Ellis stated to stop hearing voices and stop using drugs.
Okay. And this is an assessment that took place July 22nd, 2019, correct?
That is correct.
So moving along, I want to ask you about back to exhibit 2026. You can take this other one down.
Thank you.
Of course. So you have an opportunity again to provide care for Mr. Ellis after that initial discharge in September of 2019, right?
Initial discharge. What do you mean by that, sir?
Sure. So we just went through the discharge summary and the assessment, and that he was discharged, well, I would say around October of 2019.
Correct.
And did Mr. Ellis then re-engage services at Greater Lakes?
Not to my understanding, no.
Okay, well,
Not that I can recall.
okay, I want to point out, I know you haven't seen these records in a while, so I want to maybe refresh your recollection about some of the records that contained here. Can you go to page 5922, please?
Okay.
And this is a discharge summary as well, is that right?
It is.
Okay. And very similar to the other discharge summary that you have?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the admit date on that discharge summary?
It is October 15th, 2019.
Okay. So does that indicate that after he was initially discharged that he re-engaged services?
That is correct.
Okay. And then But there is a discharge, obviously the discharge summary. What's the discharge date of this discharge?
February 12th, 2020.
So the discharge date there indicates that and does this discharge summary indicate a reason as to why he was discharged on February 12th, 2020?
I'm not seeing that right now.
Okay, if you see under level of achievement of goals and objectives of contact, the last sentence there says, clinician attempted to reach out via phone and mail, however, attempts were unsuccessful.
Ah, yes.
Okay. So, and it says it's an unplanned discharge, is that right?
Yes. Anytime when you're not engaging, it's unplanned. Absolutely.
Okay. And then the fact that you keep turning to the next couple of pages indicates that, or be more succinct in telling you what pages, there's a couple. If you turn to 5938,
Okay.
and what is that?
This is a progress note. So anytime that you have a scheduled appointment with your therapist, therapists use progress notes to kind of detail what happened in the moment during session.
Okay. And does it indicate, what is this progress note?
This progress note indicates that Mr. Ellis was indicated as a no-show for his scheduled appointment that was on December 16th, 2019.
And then if we turn to the next page in line,
Yes,
is this another progress note?
that is correct.
What is that?
It indicates that on December 9th, 2019, Mr. Ellis had not checked in yet. When I called Mr. Ellis to engage with him, I was unable to speak with him. I was told by the individual who picked up the line, you have the wrong number.
Okay. And if you turn to the next page again, is that another progress note?
That is correct.
And what does that indicate?
It indicates that Mr. Ellis was indicated as a no-show for his December 2nd, 2019 appointment.
Okay. So, and would those misappointments be a reason for discharge in February of 2020?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay. Last couple of questions here. The page number 5942.
Mhm.
And can you tell the jury what this record is? Oh, actually,
It's a progress note.
sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
It starts at 5941, correct?
That is correct. This was an individual therapy session held between myself and Mr. Ellis, dated for 11/18/2019.
Okay. And what is the duration of that session?
Time of service started at 2 p.m. Duration was 30 minutes.
And talk to us about how this note is created.
We work off of, this is a template note, so I had to use the prompts that were available in the system at that time. Typically, we review what happened prior to, like what was going on in your life prior to this particular appointment. So I always gain an update with their particular baseline at that time.
And does it also just include, aside from these boxes that you can check, does it also include your notes regarding the session?
Yes.
And what are some of the, can you read for the jury what some of the notes are that you took within the session?
Mr. Ellis had let me know prior to our previous session on this date for November 18th, 2019, that he had finally contacted an attorney. We were working towards completing his crisis plan and also had hopes of trying to initiate a individual treatment plan if time permitted.
And then there's a particular note about Mr. Ellis
Yes.
exhibiting certain medical symptoms. Is that right?
That is correct.
And what do you, and can you read for the jury what you wrote down on that note?
So in the updated section, I noted that client left session early per clinician's advice to see a doctor at the nearest urgent care clinic due to chronic medical symptoms displayed during session.
And at the bottom of that page, could you read for the jury what you wrote about it starts with clinician and ended session early? Do you see that? Sorry, it's still on that first second.
It's on here. Thank you.
Of course.
Clinician and Manuel ended session early. Manuel was feeling ill and displayed labor breathing. Client agreed to have his sister drive him to the nearest urgent care clinic to be seen by a doctor.
And do you remember independently what you meant by labor breathing?
Mr. Ellis was displaying difficulty speaking with me as he had to take extra breaths in between words. And I could also see his chest, just struggling a little more.
Okay. I don't have anything further, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Questions? My name is Patty Pierce,
Nice to meet you.
and I represent the state. Just want to ask you, so with respect to the visit on November 18th, 2019, that you just read about, you would agree that you thought it was important to respond to somebody who was showing some sort of issues related to breathing?
Absolutely.
And is that something you actually raised with Mr. Ellis?
I did.
He wasn't apparently that aware of it, correct?
He was, but when I brought it to his attention, he tended to minimize what was going on.
And you didn't think it was serious enough to call 911?
I did not.
But you thought it was important to acknowledge it and suggest that he go see a doctor, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And he said that he would agree to have his sister taken, is that correct?
He did. That is correct.
But you don't know if he actually went and received any sort of treatment?
I do not.
And do you remember Mr. Ellis?
I do.
And was he always cooperative and pleasant when you dealt with him?
Absolutely.
And there have been some notations that defense counsel has been reading about him having hearing voices. In your discussions with Mr. Ellis, was he coherent?
He was coherent.
Was he open with you?
He was very open, yes.
And there were some notations in the medical records, or in your records, about him saying he had a heart issue. Do you have any information about what he was referring to?
I do not.
You don't know if it was pericarditis?
I do not.
All right, let's see, you were also asked about a few other notes, if I can have you take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the page that is note 5923, and this is in Exhibit 2026.
5923, is that correct?
Yeah, 5923.
Okay,
Let
I'm
me know when you find
a
it.
little further along there.
The numbers are a little out of order.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. Yes, okay.
All right. You told that you were asked to read a sentence that said, clinician attempted to reach out via phone and mail, however attempts were unsuccessful. Did you see that?
I do.
So can you read the sentence that comes right before that?
Clinician lost contact with client after he presented with symptoms related to head trauma on 11/18/2019.
And is that the time that you saw him that we just talked about?
Um,
November 18th?
Well, That I don't recall, but that's what it states.
And that you don't recall that he had Tacoma?
I do recall that. He had visible contusions on his face.
And if you will also ask questions about Exhibit 2016, if you could take a look at the dates page labeled 5872, please.
There is no 5872. It starts with 5876.
I think they're a little out of order. This is Exhibit 2016. You don't have that one?
I do not have that, I'm sorry.
Let me just find it here.
It might have been taken from her. She had 2016 before.
She did. I didn't
Okay.
find it. It makes sense.
She took it back.
Yeah, I had it. Brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you. Heading back with the Marquez Exhibit
Thank you.
2016. If you could turn to the page that's marked 5872, please.
Okay.
Okay, you recall being asked questions to read just one sentence on there about Mr. Ellis's goals.
Yes, that is correct.
And is there other information contained within that page?
There is.
And what does the note indicate in terms of what the assessor observed about Mr. Ellis?
In his strengths assessment, he self-reported his relationship with his kids. The assessor observed him to be pleasant and friendly. His social supports included his friend, and he provided a name, but that was not included in the record.
And did you ever, when you saw Mr. Ellis, did you on occasion see him with a child,
I did.
his daughter?
It was his previous girlfriend's daughter, not his biological daughter.
And how many occasions do you recall meeting Mr. Ellis?
Maybe approximately 1 to 3 times. I don't recall though.
But you recall Mr. Ellis?
I do.
Yeah, just a moment. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Person?
Thank you, Judge. I don't have
Assessor? Redirect.
Redirect, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Pasteris, you are excused. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Should I leave these documents here on the table?
For now, yes.
Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to squeeze you back to jury deliberation. We have something we need to take up with counsel before we go to our next witness. So please do not discuss case among yourselves with anyone else. Thank you.
Deputy Moss about the court's rulings is she drew this to my attention, which it's contained within her report as well, which I can pull it up. Well, maybe I can pull it up. She indicates in her report that one of the reasons that she took the action she did is because of the allegations associated with Mr. Ellis that day, that he had been biting people, and so, or biting his girlfriend at that point. So when I indicated to her, the judges ruled that we shouldn't go into the particulars of the incident, she said, well, she said, I don't think that's fair for me because I put my knee on his head when he was looking like he was going to bite us, and she felt like she needed to be able to explain her actions to the jury because even in her report she indicates that because of the allegation that he had just bit someone and the way that he was acting then, she thought, I think reasonably so, that he was attempting to bite her there as well, and that's why she put her knee. She tried to hold him down, I think, initially with her hands, but then she resorted to a knee because he was overpowering her in that moment. So that's what she brought up. She said, I feel like I need to explain my actions to the jury there, why I did what I did.
Any comment, Mr. Lee?
This is speculation on her part.
No. It's not speculation as to what her own motivation was.
But whether Mr. Ellis was attempting to bite or not, she's not clear on that. In fact, her report indicates, I feared that Manuel was going to try to bite us, and then she referred to the cat entry, and then she indicated she attempted to pull his step. She can certainly explain that she was afraid that he was going to bite her, but she doesn't need to explain that it's because of the DV allegations and what occurred there. And that she can simply explain why she did what she did without referring to the incident.
Mr. Conrad, or any of the defense counsel comment?
No, I'm relaying to this court what Deputy Moss indicated some concern about the court's ruling, given her, what she knew about Mr. Ellis in that particular circumstance. And so that's what I've done.
What was the last?
So that's what I've done. I think that it's relevant to indicate what Mr. Ellis's actions are in that moment and what her response is. What I don't want to get into, and I think this happened yesterday a bit, which is training about tasers or training for these officers in this circumstance, what they're trained to do or what they, because it's not about their training. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what Mr. Ellis's actions are in that moment. And I think that, the Attorney General's office tried to do that yesterday a bit, and I'd actually make a motion that they shouldn't be getting into training and materials of these officers because it's not pertinent.
Well, that objection was overruled. Anyway, Mr. Oster, you've risen to add to this.
I'd echo Mr. Conrad's concern. I think the underlying call lends to her reason for the action and makes it justifiable, at least in her mind. Out of context, it looks as though she's just assuming he's going to bite, so I put a knee in his head. That I think is not accurate. So I think it is relevant. I don't see the undue prejudice to the state in allowing her to explain why she did what she did. Thank you.
The state is not making any allegations regarding her use of force. This incident is being permitted by the court because there's a connection to the Matthews and their experts' opinions regarding how Matthews affects Mr. Ellis when in police presence. The DV incident has nothing to do with that, has no relevance to that. And we're not alleging any issues with the use of force by Detective Moss.
Will the deputy indicate that she thought he was going to bite her?
Yes. That's what she indicates in her report.
Then she doesn't necessarily have to say anything about the DV incident, right?
Well, so
If she thought in the course of the struggle with Mr. Ellis that he was about to bite her, that should be sufficient explanation, right?
Well, it's not. It doesn't. She didn't have that fear just out of thin air, right? Or given his actions. I don't think that in that moment he said anything like, "I'm going to bite you," or "This is."
No, but the way somebody's moving, the way somebody's
Sure.
the way somebody's moving could certainly convey an impression that they're about to bite you without having to actually declare their intent.
I could agree with that, but I think that it doesn't make that fact less relevant. You know, if you look at her logic, which is she arrives on scene, she knows this individual had just been in a DV incident and bit someone, and then while she's taking him into custody, he's thrashing around and moving his head towards her leg, and she's like, well, this guy just bit someone else. I think it makes that fear that much more reasonable.
Yeah, but that's really not an issue in the
It's
case.
not an
Okay.
issue. I mean, we're not.
If there's going to be, if this becomes an issue where the state questions her action in this regard and putting her knee on his head and maybe in indicating her concern she had that he was going to bite her, then it may well be that they've opened that door and they can go farther in explaining why she felt that way.
Okay, I think that's fair.
So, with that, I think we're fine, right?
Thank you.
Okay, let's have the jury. Yes, please come forward to right about here and raise your right hand to be sworn. Solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony on this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you very much. Please have a seat right there. Please state your name and please spell your name.
Detective Sergeant Alexa Moss, Alexa Moss.
Thank you. Mr. Conrad.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, just inform the jury, obviously, you're Detective Sergeant. Which department or office do you work in?
I work for the Pierce County Sheriff's Department.
How long have you been working
A little bit over 12 years.
there? And what did you do for work prior to
Prior to being hired with the Sheriff's Department, I got a bachelor's degree in cognitive psychology from Reed College in Portland. I coached a competitive gymnastics team, and I worked in a cognitive psychology lab. Cognitive.
And I want to ask you about an incident you were involved in on September 21st, 2015. Have you had an opportunity to review your report regarding this incident?
I have.
Okay. And would it help you through your testimony to have your report in order to refer to it?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to hand you with the mark as Defense Exhibit 2508. Is that 2508?
Okay, thank you.
And is that your report regarding this matter?
It is.
And when did you offer that report?
Can I take a look at it? On September 22nd at about 5:30 p.m.
Okay. And can you actually I threw out my copy of it? Can you tell the jury what was the call out? What was the dispatch?
We were dispatched to a domestic violence incident.
And who was involved?
Mr. Ellis.
Is this Manuel Ellis?
Correct.
Okay. And can you describe to the jury what your involvement was in that incident?
So my involvement was, I guess, kind of the second part of it. We received a second phone call from the victim informing us that Mr. Ellis had returned to the area, and so we went to go look for him. Another deputy ended up making contact with Mr. Ellis, and I responded to that location to assist them with his arrest.
And which deputy was that?
It was Deputy Carpenter that originally made contact with him, and then prior to my arrival there, Deputy Pressel also showed up.
Okay. And then at what point did you show up on scene?
Shortly after the two of them.
Okay. And can you describe to the jury what you witnessed and what you did when you first arrived?
So when I arrived on scene, Deputy Pressel was placing Mr. Ellis into handcuffs. He was compliant, but he was fidgeting uncontrollably. He was like opening and closing his hands a lot.
And why did you note that in your report?
I did.
And why did you note that in your report?
I noted that because his behavior to me was indicative of somebody that was under the influence of methamphetamine.
As a police officer, we encountered people who are under the influence or that you suspect to be under the influence of methamphetamine?
Yes, at that time I was working swing shift in Spanaway and had been working that shift for several years.
Okay. And that's where this call out was, is that right? This dispatch?
Correct.
Okay. And
You were not a detective sergeant at the time.
I was not. I was a patrol deputy at that time. So at that time I was driving a marked patrol vehicle, wearing a marked police uniform, a jumpsuit, and responding to 911 calls. I've since been promoted.
so you indicated this information that he appeared to be under the influence of methamphetamine, is that right?
Correct.
And that was given the behaviors that you were witnessing?
Yes.
Is that something you had seen previously in your training experience?
Yes.
And describe to the jury what transpired, what happened.
So what happened after that, Deputy Pressel was placing Mr. Ellis into the back seat of my patrol car because I was going to transport him to jail. I had walked around to the other side of the vehicle in the back, and Mr. Ellis said that he had complained of tendonitis in his shoulders and asked to have a second set of handcuffs put on, which Deputy Pressel and Deputy Carpenter did put that second set of handcuffs on.
And what happened after that?
After that, again, I'm on the other side of the patrol car. I heard Deputy Pressel yelling at Mr. Ellis to get his hand out of his pocket and then to get out of the car.
And what was Mr. Ellis' response to those commands?
He did not take his hand out of his pocket or get out of the car.
So what happened next?
So Deputy Pressel or Deputy Carpenter took him to the ground. By the time I got around, so I'm now running back around the car to go to the other side. By the time I got to the side of the vehicle that they were on, they had taken Mr. Ellis down to the ground.
Do you know why that was done?
We didn't know what he was reaching for in his pocket, so there's a safety concern of what is he trying to get out of his pocket.
So you were on one side of the vehicle watching this transpire, is that right?
I don't know that I watched them take him to the ground as much as I heard them yell at him to take his hand out of his pocket and to get on the ground, and then I ran around to help, and by the time I got there, he was on the ground.
Okay. And then, can you describe to the jury what you did next?
So I knelt on Mr. Ellis's right arm to keep that hand immobilized. It was his right hand that was in his pocket, and then tried to help basically pry his hand out of his pocket.
And what was Mr. Ellis doing there?
If you'll let me look at my report.
Of course.
So Mr. Ellis was kicking his legs and tensing his muscles, and then bucking his hips or picking up his hips to try to get Deputy Carpenter off of them.
Okay. And when you say he's kicking his legs and tensing all of his muscles, what do you mean? Describe what you're seeing now.
I don't have an independent visual recollection, I guess, beyond what's written in my report. Tensing, when somebody's tensing all their muscles when we're trying to remove their hand or get them under control, it's that resistance that you can feel, right? When somebody's trying to get away or pulling back or, moving against you.
Okay. And in terms of, you indicated he was bucking his hips, trying to get Deputy Carpenter off of him. Can you describe what you're indicating there?
Sure. So, and again, this happened 8 years ago, but what I believe the body positions was that Mr. Ellis was face down on the ground. He had at that point 2 sets of handcuffs on his hand, so his arms are able to move quite a bit, but still kind of caught behind his back. And Deputy Carpenter, for lack of a better word, was straddling over the top of his hips. So she had one of her legs on each side of his hips and was trying to hold him down that way. And what I mean by bucking his hips is picking them up off the ground or moving from side to side, trying to knock her off.
Okay. And were you eventually able to get Mr. Ellis's hands out of his pockets?
Yes, I believe that Deputy Pressel and Deputy Carpenter got him back into one set of handcuffs, and then his hand was able to come out of his pocket then.
And how many officers are trying to do that at this point?
There were 3 of us.
And were you able to determine what was in Mr. Ellis's pocket?
It was a syringe with clear liquid in it.
Was it later determined what that clear liquid was?
It was.
And what was that?
It was methamphetamine.
And after the syringe had been removed from his pocket, Did Mr. Ellis become compliant?
He did not.
What did he continue to do?
So he was kicking Deputy Carpenter repeatedly in the back, and then he was picking up his head and turning it back towards like my leg and Deputy Pressel's legs.
Okay. And you said that he's picking up his head, is that right?
Yeah, I guess like the best way to describe it is trying to like move his head and body back towards where we were on the sides of him, because he's still face down at this time.
Okay. And 3 officers were still struggling.
Correct.
And was he able to lift you all up as well in that moment?
I don't remember.
Okay. And what did you think that he was going to do when he was turning his head towards you?
I thought that he was going to bite one of us.
And so what did you do in response to that?
I tried to hold his head down with just my hand to keep him from moving his head and mouth back towards us, but I wasn't able to do that with just my hand, and so I had to kneel on his head to hold his head down.
You did that so you could not bite more.
That's correct.
And after that, did Mr. Ellis become compliant?
No.
What is your report indicate?
So my report indicates that he wouldn't calm down to the point that we could safely transport him to jail. So if he was under arrest, we couldn't transport him to jail safely based on his behavior. And so I got my hobble cord out of the car so that we could apply a 4-point restraint to him.
Can you describe to the jury what a 4-point restraint is and how it was applied?
Sure. So the hobble cord has like a carabiner on one end, or like a kind of like a dog leash clip on one end, and then it's a black cord, and it has a loop at the end that is like can be tightened and loosened with a clasp, basically. In this case, what we did to apply the hobble cord was I knelt on Mr. Ellis's legs and crossed his feet. That loop that's adjustable goes around the feet, and then the cord gets wrapped through the like in between the feet around that loop, and then the knees are bent to a 90-degree angle and clipped onto the handcuffs.
What do you remember happening next after applying the hobble cord?
Mr. Ellis was bleeding from behind his ear, and I thought that that was probably from when I was trying to hold his head down with my hand and wasn't able to. He was still able to turn his head side to side, and we were on gravel. And so I believe he had scraped the back of his ear on the gravel.
And was the fire department called to evaluate him?
Yes.
And what was Mr. Ellis's response? What was Mr. Ellis's response to the medical treatment?
He refused medical treatment, and specifically he screamed at the medics, "Don't fucking touch me," and told us, "Take me to fucking jail."
So what did you do next?
I photographed the injuries behind his ear, and then ultimately placed him in my patrol car and transported him to jail.
And was he compliant on your way to jail?
He was compliant on the way to jail until we got there.
What did he do when you got there?
Once we got to the jail, he started slamming his head into the like center divider that's between the front seats and the back seats in the patrol car.
Can you indicate all this in your report as well?
Yes.
And did he state anything about any drug usage on the way to jail as well?
He did.
What did he state?
He told me that he uses methamphetamine and that he just needs to get clean. Yes.
Okay. Throughout the duration of it?
Yes.
Thanks, I don't think any questions.
Mr. Lou? Let's examine.
Detective Sergeant Moss, good morning.
Good morning.
Detective Sergeant, I wanted to follow up on that last line of questioning. You indicated fire arrived,
Yes.
and that fire was called because Mr. Ellis had bleeding behind his ears.
Yes.
Was fire called immediately?
I would have to look at the CAD to know specifically when they were called, but I think relatively quickly, yes.
Relatively quickly. Would that be within minutes or seconds?
I would say within minutes.
And where was Mr. Ellis when fire arrived?
I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't recall whether he was sitting in your patrol car or what position he was in?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of where Mr. Ellis was once he was hobbled?
On the ground initially, obviously at some point we move him to my patrol car, but I don't remember when that happened, if it was before fire or after, or what body position he was in once he was in the car. I just don't know.
Okay. Is that, you don't have an independent recollection, is that fair to say?
Very little.
Okay. And in fact, when you were interviewed by the defense, you indicated that you don't remember anything other than what's written in your report, is that correct?
Correct.
The incident that stayed out in your mind until you were contacted?
The only thing, I remembered getting into a fight with Deputy Pressel where somebody was reaching for a syringe in their pocket and had pulled it out. But without my report, I wouldn't have been able to recall the details of that incident, no.
Because it occurred 2 years ago?
Correct.
So again, without your report, you wouldn't be able to recount the details of the incident?
That's correct.
Detective Sergeant Moss, do you recall how long this arrest or this interaction with Mr. Ellis took place?
No, I would have to look at the CAD for the incident to answer that.
Okay. I'll look at this.
Your Honor, thank you. I have a question for the detective.
Mr. Hudson?
Couple questions, please. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning. Good, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you. If I understand your testimony, upon arrival, Mr. Ellis was already in handcuffs.
Either was already in handcuffs or was being handcuffed.
All right. And even though he was cuffed, when it became aware, or when Deputy Pressel became aware there was some action towards his pockets, he was asked to get out of the car.
Yes.
And Mr. Ellis was combative at that point, right?
Yes.
And he continued to be combative throughout your contact with him, is that right?
Yes.
So once he's removed from the car, I assume that was by force since he refused to get out.
Yes.
And he was placed on his stomach.
Yes.
And if I understand your examination, Deputy Pressel and Deputy Carpenter are dealing with him on the other side of the car, him being Mr. Ellis.
Yes.
Okay. And so 2 officers had to remove him from the car and then hold him down in the prone position.
I don't know if one or both of them took him out of the car, but both of them were on that side of the car and then were there once I got around.
Okay. And even though he was in restraints, at least handcuffs, he continued to be combative with those 2 deputies before you got there.
That's correct.
And then continued to be combative with a 3rd deputy yourself arriving to assist restraining him, right?
Yes.
You described him as kicking Deputy Carpenter. He actually struck her multiple times, right?
Yes.
What's Pressel doing when this is happening?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him specifically. It took us time to get Mr. Ellis's hand out of his pocket, and then Deputy Pressel kind of very carefully went into the pocket to get whatever was in there out. But yes.
I assume then Mr. Ellis continued to be combative even after that syringe was taken out of his pocket.
Yes.
Which is why hollow restraints were required.
Yes.
Are all 3 of you officers on top of him trying to restrain him before the hobbles were applied?
Yes.
You continued to fight, right?
Yes.
No give up in this fight, right?
Correct.
And that continued after the hobble was applied?
I don't remember what his behavior was after the hobble was applied.
Okay. At that point, he'd been restrained enough that
Your Honor, I would object to reading the nature of the questioning.
Sounds like it's about to be a lady.
do you recall continued struggle after the hobbles or not?
No, I just don't remember.
Okay. May have occurred, may not have occurred.
Correct.
It sounded as though, on direct examination, that you and Officer Carpenter are next to Mr. Ellis as this is happening, or can you tell us where you are located?
During which part?
The part where you said that you thought he was going to fight you.
So, yeah, on the side of him, but I don't remember specifically where. And that was me and Deputy Pressel would have been on the sides of him. Deputy Carpenter was over his hips.
Okay. And so, one deputy is on top of him, if I understand?
Yes.
Two next to him?
Yes.
All right. Continuing to be combative?
Yes.
No, your direct front.
Never should have been said. Got one thing.
Okay. Detective Sergeant Moss, you're excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This might be an appropriate time to take our morning recess. Okay, so we'll take our morning recess this time, ladies and gentlemen, for about 15 minutes. Please do not discuss the case among yourselves with anyone else. please come forward right about there. Raise your hand to be sworn. Solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a seat right here. Please state your name and please spell your name.
It's Kevin Pressel, Kevinpressel.
Mr. Conrad.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Deputy. Uniform I gave away, what do you do for a living?
I'm a deputy sheriff with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department.
And how long have you been doing that?
11 years.
What did you do for work prior to that?
Prior to that, I worked for the Lakewood Police Department as a court compliance officer.
Okay. And what's your educational background?
I have an associate's degree.
I just want to talk to you about an incident on September 21st, 2015. And did you write a report regarding that incident?
I did.
Would it help you in your testimony to have the report handy?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm going to hand you a mark and with 2507.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with that document?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's my arrest report from that evening.
Okay. And when did you author that report?
I believe that day.
Okay. And that's September 21st.
Correct.
So I want to ask you about the initial call out. The jury has heard a little bit about this incident, but you were the initial officer that was on scene, is that right?
Yes, sir.
One of them.
Yes, sir.
There was Deputy Carpenter that was involved as well, is that right?
Yes.
So tell the jury about what the initial dispatch was.
I was dispatched to a domestic violence incident.
Okay. And who was involved in that?
Mr. Ellis and his ex-girlfriend.
Okay. And you were initially called out and went on scene, is that right?
Yes.
And were you able to locate Mr. Ellis?
Not initially, no.
Okay, so walk us through kind of what you're investigating. Well, what you did after you were able to initially locate.
I conducted my investigation, established probable cause, and then I cleared the scene.
Okay. And what do you mean by cleared the scene?
I left the location. I was a patrol officer, so there's other calls pending. So once I finish my investigation, then we leave the scene after we conduct an area check for the suspect.
Okay. And so you conducted an area check for Mr. Ellis, is that right?
Yes.
Weren't able to locate him.
Correct.
And then did you leave?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have to return back later?
Yes, we were called back to the location. I want to say it was about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay. And why were you called back?
Mr. Ellis had returned to his ex-girlfriend's residence.
Do you know who was called?
I believe his ex-girlfriend did.
Okay. And what was your job position at that time in 2015?
I was a patrol deputy.
Okay. And were you in uniform?
Yes.
What kind of vehicle did you drive?
Fully marked police car.
And did you arrive on scene in the patrol vehicle?
Yes.
Do you remember if you had your lights or sirens going?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And tell the jury what you did in terms of your second time arriving on the scene.
So once we got a call back that he was in the area, we had probable cause to arrest him. So we responded to the area. We were able to locate him on, I want to say, 169th Street, just east of Pacific Avenue, kind of around A Street. We contacted Mr. Ellis, advised him who we were, that he was under arrest. He was initially cooperative with us, and we were able to place him in handcuffs.
And then, so what did you do after initially placing him in handcuffs?
I searched him, and then we placed him in the back of our police vehicle.
Okay. And you mentioned you searched him. You know, you wrote a report in this case, but does this incident stand out to you as well?
Yes.
And why is that?
I missed a hypodermic needle that was hidden in his pocket.
Okay. And so that's something that you remember now?
Yes.
And how long had you been a deputy at the time?
I think a little over 3 years at that point.
Okay. And so what? So you put Mr. Ellis into the vehicle who was in handcuffs.
Yes.
And then describe to the jury what you saw in that situation.
So Mr. Ellis was complaining of pain from a previous injury, and he said that the handcuffs were causing him discomfort, and asked that we place a second set of handcuffs. So, you know, our handcuffs, you can join them together to give someone a little bit more mobility, and so we do that sometimes with larger individuals, or in this case, people that have injuries. So I applied a second pair of handcuffs.
And actually, one of the things that you noted in the report was Mr. Ellis's demeanor upon putting him into, upon your initial contact.
Yes.
You were writing about that in your report.
Yes.
And what can you tell the jury? What were the things that you noticed about how he was behaving?
It appeared to me that he was under the influence of methamphetamine. He was had fast, repetitive speech. He couldn't stand still. Just a lot of behaviors that are indicative of methamphetamine use.
Okay. And that's something that you specifically included in the report, is that right?
Yes.
And that's a report you authored back in 2015.
Yes.
And so, sorry, and that's something you noticed prior to putting him in the back seat as well?
Yes.
Okay. So you had him in the back seat, and then you applied a second set of
I'll let this be foundation. Go ahead.
You applied a second set of cuffs, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So take us through from that moment. He's got a second set of cuffs on. Describe to us his behavior.
So after I had put the second set of handcuffs off, he used the leverage that provided to start digging into his pocket. When I looked, because it was very odd behavior for someone to start reaching into their pockets after that, and so I looked and I could see the top end of a hypodermic needle that was hidden behind his cell phone.
Okay. And you indicated that was something that you had missed initially.
Yes.
And then what did you do in response to seeing Mr. Ellis?
So I confronted him about it. I grabbed his hand to try and pull it away from his pocket, and then I ordered him to step out of the patrol vehicle.
Were you making commands to him throughout that interaction?
Yes.
What kind of commands were you making?
I don't remember specifically, but I was commanding him to get out of the vehicle, step out of the vehicle.
And what was his response?
He refused to get out of the vehicle.
So what did you do in response?
So after giving commands and him not obeying it, I had to physically remove him from the vehicle.
Describe to the jury how that was done and where you ended up putting him.
So I used his arm to pull him from the vehicle, and then I placed him in a prone position just outside the police vehicle on the ground.
Okay. And what was Mr. Ellis's behavior?
He immediately started kicking and flailing and just resisting.
Okay. And were other officers assisting you at that point?
I believe Deputy Moss and Deputy Carpenter came to help as well.
And what tactics did you use to keep Mr. Ellis resistant?
So my whole goal was to remove the hypodermic needle from his pocket, but his behavior didn't allow for that. To safely do that, the hypodermic needle was uncapped with the needle exposed. That's a very dangerous situation for us, so we needed him to be still so that we could remove it. His flailing and kicking and thrashing around we weren't able to do that. So I placed my knee, I was on his right side, I placed my knee across his shoulders in an attempt to pin him to the ground so that I could keep him in a static position so that we could safely remove the needle.
Okay. And are all three deputies, yourself, Carpenter, and Deputy Moss, all assisting at that point?
Yes.
And were you eventually able to remove the hypodermic needle?
Eventually, yes.
And were you able to do that yourself?
Yes. With the assistance of Deputy Moss and Deputy Carpenter.
And can you describe what Mr. Ellis's actions were after that?
After removing the hypodermic needle, I can't recall specifically. I know he had sustained some facial injuries from thrashing around on the roadway, so we contacted Central Pierce Fire to come and evaluate him.
Okay. And did you eventually test the liquid that was in the hypodermic needle?
I did.
And what did it test positive?
The test kit we use is a NIC kit. It's a presumptive test in the field, and it tested positive for methamphetamine.
And throughout this interaction, are you making commands to Mr. Ellis as well?
Yes.
And what type of commands?
Stop resisting, police stop resisting, things of that nature.
And what was his response to that?
He continued to thrash on the ground and try and get us off of him.
And you mentioned that he was kicking. Was that towards anyone or just something?
I believe he actually kicked Deputy Carpenter.
Okay. And is it unusual for an incident like this to take 3 deputies?
Objection, Your Honor. All that's.
Sustained.
There's nothing indicated in your report about the use of awful restraints, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, but that's something Deputy Moss included in her report, is that right?
Yes.
And so, do you have an independent recollection of the hobbles being used?
I do not.
Is that because you didn't include that information in your report?
Correct.
Okay, so you're limiting your knowledge really to some of the information that's contained.
Yes.
And Deputy Pressel, how would you describe Mr. Ellis's strength in that moment?
He was very strong.
Okay. And how large of an individual are you?
I'm 6'3". I've put on a few pounds since the academy, but back then I was about 215 pounds, give or take. And he was lifting us off the ground.
Okay. Were you able to restrain him by yourself?
No.
I don't have any
Cross-examination.
Morning, Dr. Pressel.
Good morning.
You said you were about, how much were you way back then?
About 215, give or take.
And Deputy, is it Inga Carpenter, now Johnson, how much did she weigh back then?
I don't know, and I would not want to ask.
You're gonna say she's pretty petite, right?
Yes, yes.
110 pounds, maybe?
She is petite.
And then Deputy, now Detective Sergeant Moss, who you saw this morning, also somewhat petite.
Yes.
So you also testified that we located Mr. Ellis. Who actually located Mr. Ellis first?
We were all in the area, and I believe Deputy Carpenter saw him walking, and so we all approached.
And Deputy Carpenter actually saw him on a bicycle before you, correct?
I don't remember that part, ma'am.
Okay. You write a report in this case, as you mentioned earlier, and Detective Sergeant Moss, at the time deputy, also wrote a report.
Yes, ma'am.
You recall, and Deputy Carpenter would have written a report back then too.
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Rachelle. County was been marked as Defense Exhibit 2683. Take a minute to look at that.
Is there a specific part, ma'am? Or?
Just, is that Deputy Carpenter's report regarding this incident?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And as a deputy, you rely on your other fellow officers, deputies, handling an incident and the information they receive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Deputy Carpenter mentioned in her report that she observed Mr. Ellis on a bicycle.
Oh, let me look here.
Yeah, lack of personal knowledge.
Well, if he refreshes his recollection as to whether that was there or not, that would be fine, otherwise you can't testify. So, Deputy Pressel,
I do not recall him being on a bicycle.
Did you get a chance to actually read the report to see if it refreshed your recollection about the observations and when you came over?
Looks like I don't see a part in here where she says she located him on a bicycle.
Okay.
I see it says that the 911 caller had said that he had fled on a bicycle.
On the bicycle, and then she locates them based on your memory. You said the 196th block in Pacific?
169th east of Pacific.
Right. And she locates him, and when you arrived, she hadn't placed him in cuffs yet, right?
No. I want to say it was pretty quick. We were all in the area, so we all kind of converged rather quickly.
And he complied with stopping when he was located?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, he did.
And he complied with you placing him in handcuffs?
Yes, he did.
And you placed the cuffs on him by yourself, correct?
Yes.
Right. And you testified that you were put him in the patrol car and you noticed that he was reaching in his pocket?
After I had placed a second set of cuffs on him.
And that's in his back pocket, right?
No, it was in his front right pocket.
Front right pocket. So you had the cuffs. How did you have the cuffs placed?
Behind his back.
So with the second set, he's able to maneuver to the front.
Yes. No, not maneuver to the front. It provided him additional leverage so he was able to kind of move his hands around. He didn't like slip them under like some people tend to do. He was just using that extra leverage to get into the pocket.
Thank you. And you advised him that he was under arrest.
Yes.
And you, at the time of placing the initial set of cuffs on him, he complied.
Yes.
And at the time of placing the second set of cuffs on him, he was compliant.
Yes.
And then you put him back in the patrol car.
Yes.
And that's when you observed the needle.
Yes.
All right. And you testified that you told him to get out of the car, but he wouldn't comply with that, right?
Yes.
But you were able to pull him out of the car by yourself.
Yes.
And you were able to put him on the ground by yourself.
Yes.
And that wasn't with the assistance of either Moss.
No, I'm sorry. I don't remember. I know that I had pulled him out of the vehicle myself.
And when you said that, well, let me ask you this. When you placed him on the ground by yourself and he was in the prone position, you took the position of putting your knee just on his shoulder.
Yes.
And you were able to get him restrained.
Eventually.
And you were interviewed previously by defense in the state on this case, right?
Yes.
And in that interview, you said that interaction took less than a minute or two.
Yeah, that's from my recollection.
And less than a minute or two, all three of you did what you had to do, got him restrained, and the incident was done.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was subsequently put in the patrol vehicle.
Yes. I believe Deputy Moss transported him down.
Other than the, actually, strike that. No further questions, you don't have to.
No questions.
I just have to ask a couple questions.
go ahead, Mr. Esser.
Can I stay right here? It's okay?
Sure.
You speak up.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
On direct examination, you said that this stood out in your memory because you missed the needle. I think I understood. Is that right?
Yes.
Why does that stick out in your memory?
At the police academy, searches are big, especially for things like a hypodermic needle or weapons. When I was in the academy, I actually failed one of my search mock scenes for missing a very small file. So it's very concerning when you're in the field and now you find out that you missed something big like that.
Were you still a relatively new deputy when you conducted this search of Mr. Ellis?
Yes, I was about 3 years on.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have, Judge.
I don't have any return.
Mr. Glavin?
Your Honor, if I can just have a minute.
Sure.
Nothing further, thank you.
Nothing.
Okay. All right, Deputy, you're excused. Thank you very much.
Your Honor, on behalf of Officer Burbank, we call him Chad Hayes to the stand.
Okay. Yes, sir. Please come forward right about here. There we go. Ms. Hayes, right about here. Thank you. There you go. Now please raise your right hand to be sworn. You solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much. Sir, have a seat right here. Please state your name and please spell your name.
Shad Hayes, S-H-A-D, H-A-Y-E-S.
Thank you. Mr. Frickin.
Good morning, Mr. Hayes. Mr. Hayes, are you aware of a case involving the person by the name of Manuel Ellis?
Yes, I've talked to you about the office before, yes.
And you, in the course of the last couple of years, you've been interviewed by myself and others, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that interview, do you recall that occurring on December 10th, approximately December 10th, 2022? That sound about right?
Yeah, it'd been so long since you guys, after you guys first contacted me that I didn't remember what the exact date and time was, but yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
And that's fine, it has been a long time. And we also interviewed by the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, Sergeant Brockway, Detective Sergeant Brockway, on March 5th, 2020, right after the.
I believe that was the next day or maybe a day or two after the incident.
Okay. And then also you were interviewed on April 1st, 2021 by the Attorney General's office, a couple of individuals from that office, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the extent of the interviews that you participated in the course of this case?
Yes, sir.
And you attempted to communicate as best you could your recollection of the events on all those interviews?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, did you at one time live in the vicinity of South 96th Street in Ainsworth, South Ainsworth?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall when you lived there?
I'm bad at remembering dates. It's been about 3 years since I lived here.
Okay. Did you live there on March 3rd of 2020?
Yeah, I was there at the time, yeah.
Do you recall the address that you lived at?
No.
Okay. Do you recall the location of the house?
Yeah.
Okay. That wasn't your house, correct?
No, it was my friend Troy that I grew up with and went to high school with. I was staying there temporarily.
Okay. And he was the owner of the house?
Yes, sir.
And you were living there, and his welcome to have you there for a period of time?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna, if we can pull up Exhibit 151A, I'm gonna have you, it's gonna pop up in front of you.
Oh, in front of this in the screen? Okay.
Soon, yeah. This is pretty easy to admit it. That's, again, previously been admitted in this case. It's the area of the area you live in. We can
Yeah, this is the intersection.
I'm gonna have, hold on.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're on tonight? We have that, pointer. No, it's right here. Ms. Shays, if I can ask you to stand here, really know. I'll have you describe the intersection, and just stay out of their way and point to it. So go ahead, you were gonna start.
Yeah, his house, I don't see the fence. His house is gonna, the fence on the front, remember that? That came through, I think. This is probably the word. Okay, there's this, yeah, there's the Corvette, there's the sports car, so this is his house.
Okay.
This is where it came out through right here.
And where were you staying in that house?
In this back corner room back here.
Okay. And so, and just, if you can identify the intersection there.
Right here, this is the intersection, this is South 96th Street, and I don't remember what the name of this street is right here.
Okay. And it's Ainsworth?
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
I don't spend a lot of time in Tacoma.
Okay. And so you, as you pointed out, you were in that back, did you stay in the bedroom?
Yeah, there's a bedroom back in this back corner back there.
And when you're in that bedroom, can you see to the intersection?
No, you can't actually see the road from that bedroom. What I saw when I was laying in bed watching TV was right off the bat, a reflection of the lights.
And the lights you're referring to as what?
From the police officer's vehicle when I was laying on the bed.
Okay. And you can sit down, I appreciate that. Did you have an opportunity, other than the lights, was there any noise that drew your attention to what was going on outside?
I might have heard some voices, but of course there's people walking by there during the night at all times, and so it could have been somebody walking the sidewalk.
But at any rate, your attention was drawn to
Yeah.
the outside.
Yeah, because I thought maybe it was just somebody got pulled over for a traffic violation or something, but I noticed the lights were on there for a longer period of time. That's what led me to go outside and see what was going on.
Okay. And how long did you, once your attention was drawn to the lights, number one, how long did you stay in your room until you actually walked outside?
This for a few minutes because I thought maybe it was just somebody getting pulled over because a lot of people like to speed on that road, and there's a lot of accidents right there at that intersection. And so it's probably maybe 10 minutes or something like that.
And do you recall what time approximately of the evening it was?
No, I didn't have a clock in my bedroom at the time. I was laying in bed watching TV.
Okay. Was it before midnight? Your recollection?
It was later in the evening.
Okay. Dark out?
Yeah, it was definitely dark.
Okay. And then, so eventually you walk outside.
Yeah.
And I guess what route do you recall walking outside?
Came out through the gate.
And I guess I'm not sorry. I had to
Yeah,
sit down.
I'll show you.
Take a point again.
Right here, there's a wooden fence that goes all along here, and it came out this gate right here. There's a gate right there that opens up and you can walk outside.
Okay. I think we're good now. So when you did that, what do you recall seeing initially?
I saw the patrol vehicle, it was a Ford Explorer, I guess, whatever. And it was parked in the intersection, and then I noticed a couple officers were in the middle of the road, kind of like struggling, wrestling with somebody.
And I apologize. Yeah. When you say the middle of the road, one more time. Well, at least one more time.
Well,
Can you point out where you
their
recall them being?
office of the utility vehicle or whatever was like here in the intersection. They were like kind of like right here, this area right here.
Okay, and so what you're pointing out there is in the lane that's kind of right by the edge of the driveway going out into
Yeah,
the...
it could have been a few further or back because I didn't go all the way up to the vehicle
Okay.
because I didn't want to impede on officers because I mean that's not the safe thing to do.
And what did you hear any voices at that time?
Well, I went out there to look to see what was going on. I saw them struggling with them, and I stood there 50 minutes, and not for a long period of time, for a few minutes to watch what's going on. And I was more concerned about watching traffic. There's a lot of traffic along there, so the officers wouldn't get hit by the cars. Because nobody was stopping, and nobody was stopping. And I even asked officers if they needed any help, and they told me no, they had backup coming.
Okay, when you asked them if they needed any help, was it, did you have a perception that they needed help at that point?
Objection, meeting.
Oh, this will hold.
No, you can answer the question.
I wasn't sure, that's why I asked, because I noticed they were struggling with him. And I'm a pretty fair-sized gentleman, and I've got military police experience training, and I just asked them if they needed help, and they said no, they had backup on
Okay.
it.
And when you say you saw them struggle, what did you see specifically?
They were trying to get the gentleman to comply. As far as, I don't know, I wasn't close enough exactly to see if it was handcuffed in or not, or what exactly was going on. But they were trying to get him under control.
And did you see the guy get, was he on the ground, or
Yes.
were the officers on the ground?
They were trying to subdue him on the thing.
Okay, and did the person you saw who was not an officer, did you see him trying to get up?
I never saw him stand up at any point.
Yeah. But did you see him like he was trying to get up?
Yes, he was struggling with officers.
Okay, and were the officers having a hard time with him?
It looked like they might have been a little bit. That's why I asked if they needed help. And if I were to thought it was 100% copacetic, I wouldn't even ask. But if they told me they had backup coming, I didn't do anything further than that because
And then were you out there when backup arrived?
when backup arrived, it was a Tacoma Police Department car.
Okay.
When they arrived, I stayed out there for another minute or so, and then I proceeded to go back in the house because
Did you do anything to direct traffic as you first arrived?
I was directing traffic before they arrived.
Okay.
And I don't remember if I did any more traffic after they arrived or not. I don't think I did. I think as soon as I heard their sirens coming, and they came by me, and then I believe that's when I proceeded going down.
And where do you recall you being situated with while you were directing traffic?
Somewhere, I think about this area right here, I was trying to get the traffic to go around, and these people were trying to come out at the same time, because where the officers were, they could have gotten hit at any time.
All right. And what direction did the other patrol vehicle come from?
They came down this way.
All right. Okay. And when you went outside, did you see any vehicles parked behind the police vehicle when you first got there?
At that time, I wasn't paying attention to the cars that were around.
And were you able to see, well, let me ask you this. The police cruiser that was parked at the intersection, was that restricting your vision at all?
Not completely, but I was not completely because I was up here on the sidewalk, which is almost, the closer you get, the better view you have. No, it really wasn't. I just didn't want to get any closer.
Okay. By the way, do you, and no, I think you said now,
Okay.
what was the last time here? But do you recall, well, to this day, do you know who the officers were?
I never actually met them or anything. Matter of fact, I didn't even actually know what was going on, if it was a man, a woman, or ethnicity or anything. I just knew that they were struggling with somebody, and I didn't know anything about what had gone on until the actual detectives came to the house and interviewed me.
All right. And did you, you said you had some background in, you said the military as far as security police work?
Yeah.
And when were you in the military?
I have to look at my DD-214. I think it was at 80. Yeah.
And you were you a police officer in the military?
I have military police training, and then I got injured, and then I'm at medical discharge.
Okay. And the training that you received, what did it involve?
A lot of it was regular military training, standards issue stuff, and then when you went through your AIT, which is advanced individual training, you I did a lot of how can I say it, stuff that you could and couldn't do as an officer. It's, from my understanding, it's not the same as being a regular police officer in the public as it is being a military. It's different. Training slightly different.
Now, again, getting back to what you were saying seen as far as the physical interactions between the officers and the person who we later come to know and find out was Manuel Ellis. You recall when you were interviewed by Detective Brockway, indicating to them that you didn't use the name, but Mr. Ellis throwing the officers around pretty good?
Yeah, they were struggling with him quite a bit. Yeah, they were having trouble subduing him at the time. Yes.
And would you recall using those words, throwing them around pretty good?
I don't. No, I don't.
Would you refresh your recollection if you're able to see the report from the officers?
Well, I actually read the report that the one detective,
Okay.
Ron, let me look at it, and there was a few words in there that I don't agree with what he wrote down that I don't remember ever saying to the guy. So.
Okay, but you said that they were definitely struggling.
Yes.
And were they trying to subdue them based on what you were able to see?
Yes.
And how long was that going on, do you think, while you were out there watching?
I don't know the exact amount of time I was out there. I didn't have a watch or anything on me at the time. My cell phone was in the house. I didn't stay till then. Like I said, as soon as our backup arrived, I actually went in. Shortly after that, went in the house.
Did you ever see the officers who were struggling with him gain control of him?
At the time I was out there, no.
Okay. And did you ever see them, at the time you were out there, obviously, get handcuffs on?
No.
And
Of course, I wasn't. Handcuffs from that distance are hard to see.
Sure.
They might have handcuffs on him. I do not know 100% positive they did or not. I can't say they did. I can't say they didn't.
Okay. And did you ever recall while you were watching out there seeing a taser being used?
No.
And did you ever hear a
No.
taser being used?
Not the time I was there.
And do you know what a taser sounds like?
Hmm.
Have you been tased?
No.
Okay.
Thankfully.
Is that from your training that you received in the military?
No, actually, I've been doing security for 15 years also, and we actually had to go through. I had to go through some taser training and de-escalation training and stuff like that. Being a security officer.
And based on your knowledge of law enforcement, your training, did you see anything that you felt was
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. Foundation.
Finish the question, but I think he's probably right.
that you felt was an inappropriate use of force?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Thank you. That's all I have, but others might have other questions.
Mr. Little.
Mr. Hayes, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Mr. Hayes, you indicated that you gave a statement to the Pierce County Sheriff's Department 2 days after the incident.
I think it was a day or two. I don't remember exactly.
Would you agree that your memory of the incident would be better 2 days after the incident than, say, 2 or 3 years later?
Yes.
Okay. When you spoke, or when you gave a statement to the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, you indicated that you heard yelling while you were inside the house. Do you remember that?
I remember hearing voices. That's.
And you couldn't understand or make out what was being said, is that correct?
No, because I was inside the house and it was quite a bit away from where the incident was happening.
Okay. And you indicated when you came outside, you saw a patrol vehicle, is that right?
Yes, in the intersection, yes.
And you indicated that you could see 2 cars parked behind the patrol vehicle. Do you recall that?
No, I didn't pay attention to what vehicles were behind the patrol vehicle. I was more concerned about what was going on with the officers and the traffic and everything, make sure they weren't going to get hit by cars because they were in the road and so on and forth.
Okay. Do you recall telling during the statement you gave to the Pierce County Sheriff's Department saying that one of the people in the car said to go around?
To go around? I told them to go around, or they said?
The people in the car, the car behind the patrol vehicle. You don't recall that?
Uh-uh.
Okay. Do you recall telling the Sheriff's Department that there was an officer on the ground behind Mr. Ellis?
I told them exactly what I saw, that there was 2 officers that were having problems subduing. At the time, I didn't know what was going on exactly, that they had problems subduing the subject.
Do you recall telling the Sheriff's Department investigators that there was another one?
Your Honor, I would ask that he provide a copy of the statement to the Sheriff's Department. He has a right to have it in front of him.
That's no problem.
Go ahead, Mr. What's the number?
842. If I may approach you.
Sure.
Mr. Hayes, I'm going to show you Exhibit 842. This is the statement you provided to the sheriff's department. And
Is that an actual statement, just a report?
no, this is his statement.
That's the transcript.
That's the transcript of the city. And Mr. Hayes, I'm going to have you turn to page 2 of that statement. Read that. And towards the middle of that page, on page 2, you see where the sentence begins towards, west.
Yeah, I see this section where it says, there were 2 cars parked behind him, and the cars behind him were yelling, and one guy was yelling at the other guy just to go around. I didn't say any of this to the detective. I don't remember saying any of this.
Okay. Going to the first page of that exhibit, Mr. Hayes, do you recall speaking to Detective Sergeant Brockway?
I don't remember what the detective's name was,
Okay.
because it was so long ago that it was even a year after this whole thing I even first got talked to by anybody. So
So you do recall speaking to a Pierce County Sheriff's
yes,
Sergeant?
yes I do. Yeah.
And you spoke to him outside the house, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you recall whether that was taped or not?
I don't know if he used a cell phone or if it was just a verbal. I don't remember.
And Mr. Hayes, you recall saying that you don't recall, as you mentioned this already, you don't recall whether Mr. Ellis was already in handcuffs when officers arrived?
Yeah, because I wasn't close enough to see. I mean, handcuffs, as far as away as I was, and it wasn't exactly. It was the middle of the night. I couldn't tell whether it was handcuffs or not.
Okay. And do you recall saying that during the entire time that you were watching, Mr. Ellis was laying face down on the ground? Do you recall saying that?
I know he was on the ground. I don't know if it was face up or face down.
Okay. Let me have you turn to page 4 of that exhibit.
Page 4. Okay.
And going towards the bottom of page 4, the second, actually the third sentence to the last couple sentences, or if you could take a look at that.
Which one?
This question begins when they were trying to wrestle with them, and he's on the ground. Do you remember if he's on his back or on his stomach? Do you see that?
Yeah, I see that.
Okay. And you answered it looked like the whole time he was laying face down. Do you see
I wasn't close enough to tell you whether he's face up or face down. So, like I said, I read this earlier and I didn't agree with some of the stuff the officer put in here. So.
You never saw Mr. Ellis actually stand up, is that correct?
No. Like I said, I didn't even know if it was a male or a female, what the person's ethnicity or anything was, because I wasn't close enough.
During the entire time you were watching Mr. Hayes, you never saw Mr. Ellis effectively striking, is that correct?
No, I just saw him struggling with officers.
In fact, you said that it didn't look to me like any time he got up or any blows or anything exchanged. Do you recall something?
I don't remember seeing any blows from him or the officers.
And when you said the entire time you were watching, does that include when you first stepped out of your house to the time you went back into the house?
After they told me that they had backup coming, I wasn't so much focused on them as I was waiting for the backup to basically come to make sure that nothing was going to escalate. Because there was a lot of traffic, and I did direct the traffic a little bit while I was out there to make sure nothing would happen. And once their backup showed up, then I did go inside.
Okay. But during the time that you were out there and the times that you were watching what was going on,
The time okay, yeah.
you never saw Mr. Ellis strike or hit anyone, is that correct?
I never saw him or the officer strike or hit him either. They were just wrestling with him, trying to subdue him. That's what I saw.
And you never saw Mr. Ellis actually get to stand up?
No.
Thank you, no further questions.
Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hay, just a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
You said there's a lot of car accidents on your street there on 96 Main Group.
Yeah, there's a lot of car accidents and a lot of speeders on that street.
Okay. And when you've observed a car accident, where did you see the accidents occur?
Usually when there's a car accident, they're usually right there in the middle of the intersection, kind of like where the police vehicle was. The people run that light. I've also seen a car actually go through that light into the person's yard, because that light's it's a three-way road at T like this. I've seen cars go through that light in people's yard.
Okay. And you said also people speed quite a bit also?
Yeah, that speed on that road was like 30 or 35, and they race down that road at nighttime sometimes.
Did you hear the officer say anything to Mr. Ellis during the struggle?
I remember them saying, I couldn't remember if it was where was comply or if it was stop resisting. I do remember them saying something to him while they were trying to subdue him.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. May I proceed?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Hay.
Morning.
I'm Ann Brenner, and we represent Officer Timothy Rankin, who was one of those responding officers.
Okay.
First responding officers that you saw. And he's sitting here at council table. Do you recognize him from that night?
All I saw was him getting out because the car went flying by and the car stopped. When I seen him getting out, I didn't actually see his face.
Okay. With the statement you were just asked about with Lieutenant Broadway, is that a tape recorded statement?
I don't remember if it was recorded or if he just wrote it down.
And you have it in front of you as Exhibit 842?
This is the one you guys gave me right here.
Please look at the first page, bottom of the page, if you could, Mr. Hayes. And there's a full paragraph answer from you. Just to refresh your memory, looking at this,
The bottom paragraph right here?
bottom paragraph. And you were talking about what you saw, they're right in the middle of the intersection, etc. The officers were trying to subdue him, having problems. But what I want to ask you about is, he said, I don't know, or you said, excuse me, I don't know if he was drunk or high or drugged on drugs or whatever, but he was, quote unquote, throwing him around pretty good.
And I already talked to Ron about this right here, and I never said that to the detective about whether he's drunk or high on drugs. How would I know that?
No, that's okay, but I wasn't asking about that part. I was asking you about whether the quoted part that I just quoted to you, that Mr. Ellis was throwing the officers around pretty good.
Yeah, he was struggling with them. Yes, they were trying to subdue him.
Okay.
But at no time did I see him actually stand up or did I see any blows struck. All I saw was they were struggling, trying to subdue him. That's the part I saw.
Fair to say the officers were being thrown around pretty good.
Objection, Your Honor, it's been asked and answered.
Overruled, give me an answer.
Would it be fair to say, Mr. Hayes, that Manny Ellis was throwing the officers around?
It looked to me like they were having a hard time subduing him. That's why I asked them if they needed help.
Throwing him around pretty good?
Yes, they were having a hard time subduing him.
I'm sorry, you said yes. When I said
Yes.
throwing him around pretty good, you said yes.
Yes, they were having a hard time subduing him. Yes.
Thank you. Can we get the live video, which is 0613 on the screen, please, with the court's permission? Is that it?
Exhibit 613. I don't think I've got 613 as many. Do you, Mrs. White? That may be the wrong number. 613?
Can I just take a moment, Your Honor? Which one? What's the number? Is it 613? 613, Your Honor. I'm hearing a murmuring over here. Oh, okay.
614
27, oh, which one?
was admitted. 612 was admitted, but there was no
So
613.
many of these. 612, Your Honor?
612 or 614 were, I believe, both Vivint videos.
612 it is. Bring that up, please.
And you can show that.
Now, Mr. Hayes, with the court's permission, can you step down to this screen and show the jury if you see yourself in this?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is the Vivint video from across the street.
I remember them showing me one video, and it showed me coming out the gate, but I don't see her on this one. I doubt I can hear. Did it show me in video during the interview?
Right.
Showed me coming out the gate and then stopping.
Okay. And while we're waiting to get that up, can you, are we increasing stuff now?
Yeah, 'cause here's the house right here, and I can now.
Okay. Can you show me, please?
I think I'm right there. I can't tell.
Okay. I know it's kind of hard to tell.
If
If we could turn the sound up for a minute, please. Thanks. And maybe get the pointer, is there a pointer for that one?
Yeah, right here.
Perfect. Just so we're clear, you're going to be where you are.
I think that's me right there.
Okay.
And the pump shares is over
And where's the gate you say you came out?
right here. There's a fence right there, and I came through this wooden gate and walked out right here. And there's the front of the house, and there's the thing right there.
And then where were you when you observed what was happening between the officers and Mr. Ellis?
In this area right here, I didn't leave this area very much. I think I might have went across the street at one time, at one point,
Okay.
when I was directing traffic.
Okay. I'll let you sit down in a second, but I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
If you actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Stay up there. Thanks, I appreciate it. Where was the officer, where was the patrol car in relation to where we see you at first in the video?
The patrol car was down here, the intersection where Ainsworth comes up here, the stoplight. The patrol vehicle was like parked, like if you were stopped at the stoplight, waiting
Got
for
it.
the turn.
Okay. And so did you move down that way at any point? Did you break the pointer?
Oh, I actually pulled in on it.
It's not mine, it's the court's.
I don't remember how much further I walked down. I might have walked down a little further,
Okay.
because I was trying to help direct traffic too, because like I said, my focus was on, once officers told me that they had backup coming, it was to make sure they didn't get hit because they were in the middle of it.
And how many cars went by during the time you were directing traffic? About?
I don't know, it could have been 5 or more. I wasn't like counting them. I was just thinking more, worried more about the situation of people leaving the road, so on and so forth.
You can resume your seat now, thank you. And we can take that down. And just to get this very sense, when you were directing traffic, and of course we know that the patrol car was out in the intersection, was anybody involved in this struggle or fight in the lanes of traffic?
They were in front. They were in front of the patrol vehicle in the middle of the intersection. So anybody coming this way, if they're coming down Ainsworth to turn right, they would have been okay. But if somebody was going from back around from back of the police vehicle and going around to continue down 96, if they weren't paying attention, they could have cut right in front of the police vehicle and hit the officers instead of.
And that's why you were directed.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to back up and just go chronologically through what you saw. When you were watching TV,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And you were staying with your friend, was it
Troy.
Katz?
Gotcha.
Did he sleep through all this?
Yeah, he goes to bed. He was going to bed. He goes to bed early at the time because he worked at Boeing, so he'd get up at like at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So he was already asleep. He slept for all this.
So the first thing you saw, can you tell us exactly what the first thing was that you saw once you heard the commotion, the voices?
From inside the house, you mean?
Yes.
I didn't see anything from the bedroom, but I did see the flashing lights. That's what led me to believe that something was going on outside.
You went outside.
Yes.
And then what did you see?
I seen when I walked out the fence and walked down, I saw the police vehicle, and then I saw the officers in the road struggling with somebody or something.
You were just asked by the prosecutor about something you said in your statements about what you saw and heard,
Uh-huh.
and about hearing someone say to go around to another person, go around.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that a guy saying that to another, yelling to another guy? Do you remember?
I don't know if people were arguing about it or something or not. Like I said, at that time I wasn't worried about
Right.
the people who were arguing. It's probably because maybe they were backed up in traffic behind the police vehicle and they were getting mad because they couldn't go anywhere.
And I'm just looking at your recorded statement with Lieutenant Brockway, but it says here that you described this yelling between cars of a guy to another guy. Does that sound about right?
No, I didn't describe anything about two people arguing. Like I said, there's a couple things in this report that I don't agree with. What you said, I said, and I don't remember saying any of these things to him.
Okay, maybe I wasn't clear enough on this. When you said that there were cars parked behind, and there was some yelling between one guy yelling at another guy.
I didn't say that. I don't remember ever saying that to the officer.
That's okay. But you remember a woman yelling at a guy. Not that either.
Mm-mm.
That's okay. So then, in terms of what happened next, you saw the
Recess.
Thank you.
So we'll take our noon recess this time. Please be back by 1:15. Please do not discuss the case among yourselves with anyone
Still
else.
there? Okay. Fine. Yeah, that's fine.
And do not permit anyone to discuss case with you or in your presence. Thank you.